Hello friends, in Poland, in the Pomerania region, there was a large-scale man-made fire, and Ukrainians have already been blamed for it. Volodymyr Zelensky reconsidered going to Gdansk after the Order of the White Eagle scandal, and Karol Nawrocki suddenly embraced European billions he once blocked. Now there will be a tough analysis of the main news and manipulations. Please give a like and subscribe to the channel. Friends, huge thanks to everyone who helps out. Simple actions take just 2 seconds. Thank you for your support. Yes, a like in support of aerodynamics is a must. Well, now let's get down to business. Polish-Pomeranian voivodeship, specifically the village of Karlowo. It's not far from Ustka, and there a massive industrial disaster unfolded. A factory producing aerosol products caught fire. What is an aerosol factory, you might ask? It's tons of chemicals, thousands of pressurized cans. The explosions there were so intense that 200 rescuers and firefighting robots had to work from a safe distance. They laid a water main directly from the Sluga River. 6,000 square meters of Slupia burned down.
Выгорело 6000 квадратных метров.
Thank God everyone was evacuated and no one was hurt. It would seem that now it's up to the technicians, investigators, and experts who will have to dig through the wiring and check the safety sensors, or rather what's left of them. But no, why do we need any facts, any investigation, or a commission? Enter a remarkable character, the Polish deputy Vladimir Skalin, just so you understand what a character this guy is. Mr. Skalik is a prominent figure from the far-right Confederation coalition. He's a well-known Eurosceptic and a fan of loud slogans. Expecting objectivity from him, of course, is a hopeless cause. And here, Mr. Skalik didn't disappoint. Without waiting for any decisions, conclusions from the fire department, or any statements from the Internal Security Agency, he just says, you know why this happened? Because Mr. Karol Nawrocki revoked the Order of the White Eagle from Zelensky. What impeccable logic. Of course, who else? It was definitely those cunning Ukrainians who came running to take revenge for the order. It's not some ordinary human error, not some sparking wiring, not a machine at a chemical plant, not a gas leak. No, it's the Ukrainians. Of course, not a single piece of evidence, not a single official lead, but the guilty have already been appointed based on nationality. Right on social media by Mr. Deputy. Pure, thoroughbred, shameless slander. When a real man-made disaster is immediately used to spread xenophobic tales and cheap hype for some ratings, it looks kind of disgusting. But Mr. Skalik isn't interested in facts. He needs a frightened Polish everyman. Let's see where this road leads and whether the Confederation will be punished at all for this kind of incitement. Well, let's keep going, friends. Volodymyr Alexandrovich Zelensky, the legendary president of Ukraine, will not go to Poland for the conference on the restoration of Ukraine on June 25th to 26th. Polsat News reports this, citing sources close to the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The delegation in Gdansk will be headed by Prime Minister Yulia Svyrydenko. Earlier, the former Polish ambassador to Ukraine, Bartosz Cichocki, stated that the president of Ukraine decided not to go to Gdansk because he felt offended. My God, everyone is so nervous, everyone is offended. This happened before Nawrocki decided to strip him of the Order of the White Eagle, even though Zelensky's participation had been announced before the conflict. Well, Nawrocki also won't go to the conference because he didn't receive an invitation. Friends, comment below, should the order have been taken away and should Zelensky have gone? So, next we also have some interesting news from Polish domestic politics. A European loan, and we have an interesting video from Mr. Tusk.
Today, this defense industry will develop, among other things, thanks to a loan that has come to Poland, a loan from the European Union.
That's how it is. That's how it is, friends. I personally believe that Mr. Karol Nawrocki is doing everything absolutely right. He is holier than the Pope and smarter than Einstein. That's what I think. That's my personal opinion. But what are the Poles writing in the comments? They write that, well, if you allow me, I'll adapt the text a little, that the author of the comment notes that Mr. Nawrocki has a complete mental disconnect. First, this character, for the sake of petty internal party wars, personally vetoes the EU's defense funds. That's a principled position, something like that. And then he does a complete turnaround. Barely half a year passes, and Mr. Nawrocki comes out in front of the cameras and starts openly praising those very loans from the EU, talking about what a benefit they are for the Polish defense industry. Prime Minister Tusk, watching this display of unbelievable audacity, says, "What are you talking about? And really, this is a textbook example. First, you try to do everything you can to sabotage your own country's security on the international stage. And when other ministers finally manage to secure those billions, you step forward looking self-important and declare yourself the main winner. The most refined, purebred cynicism and so-called morality in all its glory. Friends, write in the comments what you think about this. I've said my opinion. That is, I don't agree with either Tusk or this comment at all. It's just not nice. It's not nice to behave like that. Well, in general, you can write, go ahead and write. Is such a rapid change of stance by Polish politicians a normal thing? Or are these gentlemen setting a record for political shamelessness? All right, next, what else? We have another interesting point. Karol Nawrocki, again, this was just sent to me by some Poles. I'm not commenting in any way. Let's just watch this video about his past. Here he talks about his past himself.
A man, ladies and gentlemen, is there to solve problems, not to hesitate to solve problems, to rise to the occasion and not to hesitate to start his own family. I was 20 years old when I became, ladies and gentlemen, both a husband and the father of a 2-year-old son. I lived in a 14 square meter room. I had to work hard 4 times a week. I trained and I was working on my PhD. And I didn't wonder whether having a family would pay off or not. I just wanted to have a wife and children. I considered it my duty. I'm talking about this.
Friends, it's the absolute plain truth, as the hero of the novel The Golden Calf used to say. But, well, malicious tongues, we condemn them. They write in the comments, how did Mr. Karol finish a 5-year course at the age of 15 and then, at 20, already start his doctorate, and along the way also give birth to a son and get married? With the court's permission, apparently, because back then it was only allowed from the age of 21. What's so hard to understand about that? These are all comments people write. No. We don't believe it. So let's probably finish up about this white eagle. Let's listen to what some of the smarter Poles are saying, because there are some foolish ones, you know, idiots from the backwoods, all sorts of not so smart people, right? We've already heard, out you whores, you Banderites, go to the front. But that's not really interesting to us anymore. Let's listen to one of the smart ones. Watch the video till the end. Yes, we'll have a variety. Politicians, bloggers, and ordinary people, retirees who have the right to speak. These are Poles talking.
And from your perspective, how does the Warsaw-Kyiv conflict look at the moment? It is
a disaster.
Is this a disaster? Europe, Ms. Editor?
Today I woke up and opened European newspapers, and I also browsed American ones. It's a disaster, and it's always described negatively everywhere. The only newspapers, the only media that praised President Nawrocki's decision were Kremlin and pro-Putin media. The only media in the world that praised this decision. That should make you think.
What does that mean for President Nawrocki?
I think it's for internal use. That is, chasing Ukrainians in Poland is a slogan that is becoming more and more popular, disgusting, xenophobic. But fueling such sentiments favors the radical right, and President Nawrocki has long since joined the radical right.
It's hard not to agree here, right? All to the point. Mr. Bedran said, well, it is what it is, as they say. So let's give the floor to a retired woman.
How can we build a lasting relationship with Ukraine?
All the time, until the moment when it becomes a member of the European Union. And it will, because it has to be.
Should we always treat it positively or remember those recent incidents?
Those are ridiculous media-driven issues. The point is to keep supporting the country that's fighting a huge battle for survival against our enemy. If we read history, we'll see that this country has never been lucky enough to decide anything on its own. First, the Poles destroyed it. That's the truth.
Did the Poles destroy Ukraine?
Of course, absolutely.
And Volhynia?
Sir, Volhynia is an incident that was a response to nearly 300 Orthodox churches destroyed in the Second Polish Republic. Learn some history, these are facts. Do you think
that naming a military group after the UPA is the right move by the President of Ukraine?
Is the right move, but unfortunately, if he aims to unite society, and part of Ukrainian society, just like Polish society, are nationalists, Therefore, he wants them to also support his policy. He made a mistake, that's undeniable.
But what will be the result of this, for us or for them? Well, for them and as a result for us, because if we have a society that is heading in that direction and the president is also supporting it, then won't it come back to haunt us later?
Sir, it's a shame that the president has a doctorate in the humanities. With the attitude he shows, it's a disgrace. Because in politics, you can't give and take away at will, no matter what it is, whether it's titles or medals. It's just not serious. Well,
I find it hard to disagree with this lady. That's worth a like. And by the way, let me remind you, yes, that the previous speaker, Bidron, quite adequately and reasonably pointed out that only Kremlin newspapers, propagandists, and politicians applauded King Nawrocki's decision. Well, not counting, of course, the fortune tellers and so-called patriots. So everyone else kind of looked at this performance with bewilderment. And look, to be fair, I don't deny that, Vladimir Alexandrovich, well, he had the right to call this military unit what he did. He did, right? He did, but in my opinion, actions have consequences. In my opinion, both sides acted like little children there and did things they shouldn't have done. It's not the right time, as they say. Well, let's watch another video we have.
All right, my dears, so we have a flood of Moscow's useful idiots on the internet who today are standing and mentally getting off on what the nationalist hooligan did, meaning the revocation of the Order of the White Eagle. Jiki Trainer, Big Coach, Slavek Mensin, and many other right-wing commentators as well as politicians are glorifying what Karol Nawrocki did. However, let's start from the beginning. It was indeed idiotic to name this military unit after the heroes of the UPA. It was idiotic not to take the opportunity to change that name. It was idiotic to bring about a situation where now Polish politicians are returning Ukrainian orders and Ukrainians are returning Polish orders. However, just as Karol Nawrocki said Poles should not choose heroes for Ukrainians, let me put it this way, guys who haven't been anywhere, haven't seen anything, haven't experienced anything in their lives, and would be the first to run away from Poland if Putin invaded, shouldn't be speaking out. Jiki Trainer, a man who claims to know everything but can't say anything meaningful, says as his biggest accusation that Zelensky sent the order back by courier. And how else was he supposed to send it? By carrier pigeon? Somehow you right-wing advocates aren't shouting online for the nationalist hooligan to take the order away from the one responsible for millions of Polish people's suffering. Benito Mussolini, the fascist leader of Italy who murdered Poles side by side during World War II, had this order, yet you remain silent. Could it be that you haven't even read half a history book in your life, you fools, to know about this? Somehow you're not shouting to strip the Russian generals who brutally and bloodily murdered Czech oppositionists in Prague in the past of their honors. Somehow you're not singing praises or shouting to save the honor of Marek Suski, who fell under the pressure of Catherine the Great's intelligence, who, by the way, also holds the Order of the White Eagle. On the list of people who received the Order of the White Eagle, there are dozens who are now considered executioners. Executioners of people, executioners of societies, as well as individuals who should never have received it because they are responsible for millions of Polish citizens suffering. Fascists, generals, and even Empress Katarzyna somehow have it and they don't bother you? Would you just be Russian useful idiots, my dear gentlemen from the government side? What do you mean?
Those are the comrades' thoughts. Share yours in the comments. Friends, take care of yourselves and loved ones. Leave likes and comment. Definitely, if you've watched up to this point, right. Denis watched from Krakow, from Kalmar, from Kyiv. Where are you watching from? Everyone, every city gets a personal like. So that's all for now. See you next time.